Hey guys, this is David from LearnFrenchVideo.com. Today what I'm going to do is give you an overall guide to French verb conjugations. Now, this is an aspect to learning the language which is quite difficult and can pose a challenge to many students. However, if you're able to master French verbs, you will have a much better grip on the language and achieve fluency much faster. Furthermore, in the lesson, you're going to see here that there are some verb tenses which we use all the time and some which we never use. So there are really only a handful of tenses which you use. So this is my favorite website for French verbs. It's called conjugation-fr.com. And what you do is you come to this page, the main page of the site, and you enter the infinitive, which would be, for example, parler, or to speak, of any verb in French. And you have to type it in French. So I'm going to do that now and give you an overview. So what's going to come up are a bunch of different tenses, and I'm going to guide you through the tenses right now. So just scrolling down, the first one that we see is the present tense. Je parle, tu parles, etc. I've gone into this a little bit on my site, LearnFrenchVideo.com. So this is basically the first tense to master. And what's great about this site is you'll see that at the end of each verb, the part that you need to change depending on the person who's speaking is written in blue. So that's what you're going to be memorizing. So right below that is the present perfect, which is what we would call the past, or le passé composé in French. So j'ai parlé, tu as parlé, I spoke, he, she, or one spoke, etc. Just moving on here, the simple past that you see next to the present is used in books, and basically in literature, so you don't need to memorize that. Just recognize it when you're reading. Under that, past perfect, don't even bother learning it, in my opinion. Imperfect is very, very important in French, and we don't really have that in English. And basically all the Latin languages, so Spanish, Italian, French, and Portuguese, and Romanian, all use this. So basically, the imperfect is a verb tense that you would use if describing something that you used to do in the past. For example, if you said, I rode a bicycle, okay, that means that I rode a bicycle at a specific time, down the street, whatever. So, for example, I rode a bicycle yesterday. For that you would use the passé composé, or as it says here, the present perfect. Okay? But if you're talking about when you were a little kid, you would basically use the imperfect. So that's what you have to do. Under that, pluperfect, basically, j'avais parlé, tu avais parlé, that would be the same as I had spoken, you had spoken. So you might use that from time to time. Future, you're going to use all the time. So je parlerai, tu parleras. So you're going to want to memorize that. Past future, j'aurais parlé, I will have spoken, tu as parlé. Don't really, you can learn that, but it's not really of utmost importance. So just scrolling down here, we see subjunctive. Now, all the Latin languages, including French, have this verb tense, and it's you're going to need to learn this, and it's not very fun, but it's important. And basically, the premise for this verb is if you're saying, for example, I want you to do something, or it is important that you plus verb, for example, it is important that you speak, or it is obligatory that you get up at 5 in the morning, for example. So situations where you're making a sentence, that's the situation where there's a real demand on the verb that needs to happen. So I want you to go, for example, or it is important that she eats. So you see there's a demand emphasis on that verb. So in this situation, you need the subjunctive. So, for example, it is necessary that you speak. Il faut que tu parles. In this situation, you're going to use this tense. Now, it is important that I eat. Il est important que je mange. In this situation, you're using subjunctive. Now, let's look at the, well, you have the past imperfect and pluperfect subjunctives, but for now, don't really worry about those. Just moving down here, you have the conditional. Now, that is equivalent to would in English. Excuse me. I would speak, I would eat, I would go, etc. So, in this situation, you always take the infinitive of the verb parler, and then you add on what you see at the end here. So, je parlerai, tu parlerais, il parlerait, nous parlerions, vous parleriez, il parlèrent. This is important. You need to learn this if you want to say I would do something. So, first past conditional, j'aurais parlé, tu aurais parlé, I would have spoken, you would have spoken. Second past, j'eusse parlé. I've never heard a French person use this tense. Don't bother. For now. So just moving down to the bottom here, the next tense is the imperative, and this is the commanding tense. So, for example, if you want to say to somebody, speak, or eat, for example, you would use this. So, parle means, speak. Parlons, let's speak. So, past imperative, don't worry about. Infinitive simply is the verb in what's called the mother form, parler, er at the end, to speak. Past infinitive, don't worry about, and participle, don't worry about. Now, moving along here, what I'm going to do is just show you that on my site, I have made lists of common ER, IR, and RE verbs in the present tense. So if we come to learnfrenchvideo.com, scroll down the home page, we see ER, RE, and IR conjugations. You can click on those links, and you're going to see lists of common ER verbs in the present tense, and on common RE and common IR. So just scrolling down, you can see those. So you can basically copy-paste any of those verbs into the site, conjugation-fr.com, and you can learn how to conjugate them. So another thing that comes into play is irregular verbs. So I found 2 good resources online for lists of irregular verbs. So this is called FrenchLinguistics.co.uk, and they have a page with common irregular verbs, the most common and irregular verbs of French. So basically, être, to be, avoir, to have, aller, to go, faire, to make or do, and then there's a few more. Pouvoir means to be able to or can. Vouloir means to want or wish in certain situations. And savoir, which means to know. So if you really want to get into the irregular verbs, I found another great site. It's called Orbilat, orbilat.com, French irregular verbs, and there's a huge list here of irregular verbs in French. And basically, you can copy-paste any of them into the conjugation site that I've shown you, conjugation-fr.com, and conjugate them there. So, this has been David from LearnFrenchVideo.com. I do hope this has helped you. I didn't want to scare anybody, but I just thought this kind of overview to French verb conjugations would be useful in your studies. Thanks so much, and I'll see you on the next lesson.